What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Talk About the News, episode 146, part 3 of a 4-part series. We're talking about all international hockey, where we're going to look at the four nations rosters of each team, take away a couple players, add a couple new players, and we're going to talk about everything from the United States of America. So yes, we're going to talk about the U.S. in this episode. The U.S. did get to that championship game in the Four Nations, but did fall short in overtime to the Canadians. Very awesome performance in the Four Nations by the U.S. I'm very proud of the United States. I am a big United States fan, obviously live in the U.S., so I gotta root for the United States, and I love this roster, so it kills me to not see this team wear the gold and obviously lose against the Canadians again. But the U.S. looked very good. They lost only one game, unfortunately, at home in the round robin to Sweden, but it was a game that did not matter at all. Two big wins on the road in Canada, one against the Canadians and one big game against the Finland national team there. But let's look at the roster for the Four Nations. They had three outstanding goalies and didn't even use one of them. Hellebuyck was 3 games in there, played lights out, one of the best goalies of the whole tournament. Jake Oettinger was in there for 1 game, had no offense to help him out, lost that game against Sweden. And Jeremy Swayman was another option for the U.S. He didn't even get to play. I mean, this lineup was stacked. He did dress for that game against Sweden, but overall did not even play. So you can't fault him for having a bad or good performance, because when you don't hit the ice, you don't hit the ice. For the defense, they had Brock Faber, Adam Fox, Noah Hanifin, Charlie McAvoy, Jake Sanderson, Jacob Slavin, and Zach Werenski. I just will say, I didn't know much about Jacob Slavin going into this tournament, but he played outstanding. I love Jacob Slavin's game. I'm definitely going to be watching way closer when I come to Carolina games. That is outstanding performance by Jacob Slavin. For the forwards, Matt Boldy, Kyle Connor, Jack Eichel, Jake Gensel, Jack Hughes, Chris Kreider, Dylan Larkin, Austin Matthews, JT Miller, Brock Nelson, Brady and Matthew Tkachuk, and Vincent Trocheck. This team's average height was 6'2". Their average weight was 201 pounds. Their average age was 27.52 years old. Personally, this roster was pretty damn close to perfect in my eyes. There was a couple guys that I was very questionable, but overall it seemed to all mesh pretty well. I was very happy to see this team out there. But just like we did in the first 2 parts, which if you guys did not go check out, go check those ones out, because we talked about Finland and we talked about Sweden already. We left the big powerhouses for the very end, this one being the US, the next episode, part 4, being about Canada. So based off of their performance in the Four Nations, who gets a spot in the Olympic team? We'll start off with who gets the spots. Connor Hellebuyck and Jake Oettinger. I mean, you can't fault Jeremy Swayman for not getting a spot. He did not play. That's the only reason why. Hellebuyck and Oettinger played great in those 2 games. I think the goal that Oettinger gave up that was tipped was not his fault. The goals that Hellebuyck gave up were outstanding, great goals, especially in that championship game. You really can't fault him for that. So I think both of those guys are absolute locks for this team. Then you got for the defense, Brock Faber, Jacob Slavin, Noah Hanifin, Charlie McAvoy, and Zach Werenski. All 5 of these guys played lights out. I think Faber and Slavin are an absolute lock together when it comes to the defense pairing. Hanifin had a tough first game, played great against the Canadians. I think he's going to stay in there. McAvoy played lights out, not his fault for getting injured and not being able to play the last 2 games of the tournament. Those first 2 games, loved it. Absolutely electric performance by McAvoy. Zach Werenski, leading scorer when it comes to the defense, had 6 assists in this game. I think Werenski is an absolute lock for the United States Defense Corps. For the forwards, we got Matt Boldy, Jack Eichel, Jake Gensel, Dylan Larkin, Austin Matthews, Brady, and Matthew Tkachuk. Now, the forwards, you could say that there were some guys that should be mentioned in there that played good. Based off of my eyes and what I know from these guys, those are the guys that I think played pretty well. And I don't think anybody's in question with the Tkachuk brothers. I think they played the best hockey that they've ever done in a long time. That was great to watch all of these guys here. So who didn't make the cut? Goalies, Jeremy Swayman. Again, not his fault. He did not play a game. Defense, Adam Fox, Jake Sanderson. Sanderson didn't play all that bad. He was called up. He wasn't even supposed to be on this roster. Quinn Hughes was supposed to be here. He got called in. Scored a goal in the championship game, but only played 2 games. He didn't play anything special in that first game against the Sweden national team, but he did have a pretty good performance against Canada. I just think based off of 2 games, it's hard to put him in there. And in that first game, he didn't step out and make his name noticed as much as Charlie McAvoy did in his 2 games. So that's the only reason why I don't put him in there. Fox was absolutely quiet. Very surprised to not see him do anything this whole tournament. Kyle Connor, Jack Hughes, Chris Kreider, JT Miller, Brock Nelson, and Vincent Trocheck for the forwards do not make the cut for me. I think these guys have potential to be great guys. I mean, Jack Hughes is a 99 points last year. He might hit 100 points this year. Kyle Connor usually hits 100 points. Chris Kreider can score 40 goals. JT Miller has an opportunity to hit 30 or 35 goals every year as well. Brock Nelson, kind of older guy, did not really get noticed too much in my eyes, but still a very solid player. Could be going to Minnesota next year, which could be interesting. Billy Guerin being the GM of the team, probably bringing at least one Minnesota guy with him, Brock Faber, but maybe Brock Nelson gets over there. And last one, Vincent Trocheck, really good face-off guy, but besides him doing the PK stuff and face-offs, I didn't see his name too much, so those are the guys that did not make the cut for the Olympic roster. But now let's get into my Olympic roster for the United States in 2026, Italy. The roster is 25 total players, 3 goalies, 8 defensemen, 14 forwards. They could dress 20 players and 2 goalies per game. So let's take a look at it. We'll start off with the goalies. Obviously, Hellebuyck and Ottinger are staying there. But I have a new goalie that was kind of mentioned for not even the United States, was mentioned for Canada. Joey Daccord. He's a Seattle guy. He played for Arizona State, so obviously I know him pretty well. Big Arizona State fan right there. But I will say Joey Daccord could be a guy that doesn't make this roster, and I would not be surprised. And I really do like Jeremy Swayman. But if they do not want Canada to have Joey Daccord in goal, and there was talk about Canada bringing Daccord there, the United States are going to have to jump all over Daccord before he does accept the invite to the Canadian team. So I could see them doing that and just kind of leaving Canada with their goalies that they have right now. So that could be something, but don't get me wrong. If Jeremy Swayman is in there, I'm still a very happy guy. I love Jeremy Swayman. I think Joey Daccord just could be a guy moving forward that could potentially be in there based off of how Boston has kind of been wishy-washy, and Seattle is really only afloat because of the goaltending of Joey Daccord. So that's just something there. Then we'll go to the defense. Faber, Slavin, Hanifin, McAvoy, Werenski's still there. I think Adam Fox does come back. I think Fox did not have a good tournament. 3 games is hard to prove yourself there. But I think he's very good forward. He's a big guy. I think they need size. And I think McAvoy, Hanifin, Fox is definitely going to be your size guys when it comes to that. So I say bring back Adam Fox. Then, unfortunately, Jake Sanderson does not make the lineup, but I bring it back Quinn Hughes. I think everybody will agree Quinn Hughes is a great player, definitely better than Jake Sanderson, which nothing against Sanderson, but he wasn't going to be in the first spot because Quinn's injury did not have him play in that. So I got Quinn Hughes back in the lineup. I think him coming back is a huge, massive plus to the defense there. And the last one, John Carlson. He did play in the Olympics, I believe in 2014. So he's been around a long time. He knows what the Olympics are about. He knows how to make those teams. I think Carlson, based off of what Washington's been doing the last couple of months at the new season, I think John Carlson could be a lock for this defense core. Now let's head to the forwards. You got Baldy, Eichel, Gensel, Larkin, Matthews, and both Kachuk brothers making the team. Now for the new guys. Kyle Connor did not play well. He even got scratched in one of the games. I think he comes back. He performs much better than what he did in the Four Nations. Jack Hughes, I think not having his brother could have affected him. And I think having his brother back in the lineup for the Olympics could booster his game. Jack Hughes was very shocked out there. He was kind of thrown around, kind of a smaller guy when it comes to the forward core, but I think he now knows what to expect moving forward. I think Hughes plays better and gets back into that lineup for the United States. Then Jason Robertson, new guy, kind of surprised that he didn't make the team. A lot of people did think he was going to make this roster, and I think Jason Robinson could be a guy that we see moving forward into this team. Tage Thompson, I think he's a great goal scorer. Maybe they also want the size too. Thompson, I think, 6'4", 6'5". He's a big guy. Can't score goals. I think Thompson could be a lock for this team. Clayton Keller, I think, could be a guy that a lot of people do not talk about, but could be a big powerhouse in this team. He's a great player, captain of the Utah team. I think Keller may be a guy who doesn't always get in the lineup, maybe a third or fourth liner, maybe probably fourth liner based off of this roster. But I think Keller could help this team out pretty big. And the last two, Vincent Trocheck, I think he comes back. I think you take away what he did offensively and you look at what he does defensively on the PK and what he does for the faceoff circle, and I think you got to bring him back. He's one of the top faceoff circle guys in the league, so you bring back Trocheck for the faceoffs and defensive purposes. And then lastly, you get Cole Caulfield in there. I think Caulfield kind of felt snubbed not getting in the lineup. I think Caulfield could be a guy that we see moving forward in the U.S. spots, and I was very surprised to not see him, but I think we're going to see a guy like Cole Caulfield and the Olympic roster. So for guys that missed, I actually have a good amount. So Jeremy Swayman, we already mentioned, he just missed the cut, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him in there, and then I would put Joey Decourt as just missing the cut. So I think it's between those two guys. Defense, you might be surprised, but I got Keandre Miller potentially getting that spot. I think a guy like Adam Fox is better, but if they're not happy with Fox's performance, I can see a guy like Keandre Miller or maybe even Lane Hudson getting into there. Hudson being a young rookie right now with Montreal, he's putting up really good numbers when it comes to point production. I could see Lane Hudson getting in there, maybe being that seventh guy, that extra guy that you dress but do not play all the time. I could see him being in there. Forward-wise, Troy Terry, Chris Kreider, and Alex DeBrincat. I think Troy Terry offensively has not been all that great for Anaheim. Not the guy that they expected as much. But he's got some of the best highlights when it comes to the World Junior Championships. He made his name known in that. So I think him going back to a best-on-best tournament for the United States could bring back some special plays. Chris Kreider, I think, could be back in there. He only played 2 games, but he didn't play too bad in those 2 games. I think Kreider could get back into this lineup. And Alex DeBrincat, I think, could be a sneaky pick, but I would not be surprised to see them skip over him based off of their size and what you see the size of the rest of the U.S. He's just not as big as some of the other guys there. All right, guys, well, that is the U.S. Olympic roster for the 2026 Italy Winter Olympics. Super excited to watch this team on the rink, whether it is this lineup, whether it's just the 4 Nations roster right back at it, or whether all of this is incorrect. Regardless, I'm going to be rooting for the U.S. I can't wait to watch it, and they need some sort of redemption. They're going to get a medal regardless, whether it is gold, silver, or bronze, but we're not going for silver or we're not going for bronze. We're going for that gold medal, and we would love to win it against the Canadian team. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard, especially with what the roster that they have and what I think it's going to happen, which is in part 4. So make sure you guys hit that like, subscribe, and the bell icon so you guys are notified when the episode drops. But regardless, I think the U.S. have a great roster, great players to pull from. It's going to be hard just to pick 24 guys or 25 guys. But thanks, you guys, for listening to this one. Have an awesome rest of the week, and we'll see you guys later.